Jesus calls us to release the captives. But Jesus also gives us the keys to release ourselves from the kinds of bondage that we put ourselves in. Jesus comes to us and says, I bring you peace, not as the world gives, but a peace that passes understanding. So that if we are addicted to anger and strife, or drama, right? If we're addicted to those things, Jesus offers us the key to set ourselves free from the bondage and the drama. If we are in bondage or we are held captive by addictions that are physical, Jesus offers us the key that says, you can let me be your drug. You can let me be your high and find yourself freed from those addictions. If you are held in bondage by that I need to be in love with somebody stage of relationship, so that every 6 months you're cycling through somebody else, right? Jesus says, fall in love with me, because I'll never fall out of love with you. And be released from that kind of bondage. If we are addicted to alcohol or substances, Jesus says, I get that you're suppressing this pain and you're covering up this pain. So let me heal that instead and be released from that bondage. If we are addicted to money or wealth or greed or those things that keep us so focused on making a buck that we have forgotten what's really important in life, Jesus says, I have the key to release you from that. Because I'll show you what it is to really love other people. And it's so much more powerful than money can ever be. We have the keys to be released from whatever is holding us in bondage. And here's the cool thing. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. And you don't have to jump through 500 hoops to get it. And you don't have to find some secret treasure map to go find that key. The hardest part is it's so easy. See, we like things that are complicated, right? We want a list of rules and a set of do this, don't do this. We like that. We can follow that. And Jesus comes along and does this really sneaky thing and says, all you have to do is ask. And we're like, wait a minute, where's the fine print? Where's the trick? Where's the catch? Where's the balloon payment at the end, right? Because we want things to be complicated sometimes. And Jesus says, it's this easy, just ask. If you want to be freed from this, ask. If you want me to help you let go, ask. If you want justice, ask. And that's hard. The simple is sometimes really difficult. And yet it is what it is. All we have to do is ask. And Jesus is right there, ready at any moment to hand us the keys to those chains that we have bound ourselves with, and we are released. And then comes the really scary part. Then comes the really scary part. What do you do when you're free? What do you do when you've been released from bondage? Because we've gotten so used to the weight of those chains sometimes that we look for something else to hold on to hold us down. Realizing that if we just let it go, and it's okay to float for a while, to have that light feeling of levitation that freedom can bring. To be unbusy, so that we have time to do those things in life that really mean things, that bring us joy, instead of just being busy all the time. What do we do with that freedom? Well, here's what I would suggest we do with that freedom. I would suggest that we do the same thing that Jesus did. Make the world a better place. Reach out to those people who are poor and still in bondage, and help them know that they can be released from that bondage. Reach out to those people who are so caught up in chasing after things that they've forgotten that people are what matter. and help them to realize that you don't have to be rich to be happy. There's a suicide phenomenon among people who win lotteries because they have no idea what to do with all that stuff. It's overwhelming. I would love to win a lottery because I'd like to give it away. I think that would be so cool. What would I do with that? Give it away. Because there's joy in that. And if you have been released from the bondage of addiction, turn around to somebody else who has those chains, because you're going to be able to relate to them in a way that nobody else can. And show them how the key turns and unlocks those chains. And if you've been in those cycles of relationship because you're addicted to that feeling of being in love for that first whatever period of time, and you're released from that, and you have one of those friends who's in the same cycle, and you can see it, help them to see that there's something beyond that first 6 months. There's something beyond that feeling, the same one you get when you eat chocolate, right? There could be an addiction too. That there's something beyond that that's even deeper and more meaningful and more powerful. And help them get released from bondage too. Freedom is a powerful thing if we use it. So we turn around and we do exactly what Jesus did, and we release the captives in the same way. And that's when freedom becomes really free. When we're able to share that freedom with someone else and help them be free too. It is going to be an interesting time in our society and in our community in the next several years, because we have fought so long and so hard for equality, for marriage equality, for equality in employment and housing and all of those things, right? And now we have marriage equality. Wow! And we're starting to get actual legislation, anti-discrimination legislation. For those of us who grew up in this generation where we have been activists and we've been out there on the front lines fighting for equality and equal rights, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next few years, because it's a different kind of struggle. We're not protesting in front of legislatures anymore. We're not protesting at the courthouse anymore, because we've gotten, or are in the process of getting, we're really close to getting this full equal rights. So what are we going to do with that freedom?
Help others.
Because, do what?
Help others.
Help others, exactly. Because here's the thing, we can make all the laws in the world, and we know this from history, we can make all the laws in the world that says people are equal, but you cannot change hearts through the law. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to people and say, look, the world didn't end because we got married. And companies didn't fold up and die because you gave us equal rights and don't discriminate anymore. It's okay. Because we are going to release people from their fear. And that is the most powerful bondage of all. The fear that we hold people in. The fear that the media generates. The fear that some well-meaning but ill-informed conservatives bring. We are going to turn around and release people from that fear. And here's part of how I think we're going to do that. Part of that certainly is going to be to say, look, the world didn't end. But the other part I think is more powerful, and that is to say, look, God created us, all of us, as valuable, amazing human beings. Super's open up. And that means that God created me as a lesbian, and you as a lesbian, and somebody else as a gay man, and somebody else as a straight person, and somebody else as bi, and somebody else as pansexual, and whatever. God created all of us as beautiful human beings. Whatever label we may or may not choose to wear. And here's the cool thing about that, is that those people who are most afraid of us are usually most afraid of themselves. And when we get them past that point of fear, they will float higher than anybody. because they are the most oppressed. They are the most deeply held in bondage to fear. And seeing them released is going to be so cool. It's going to be so cool to see them released from that fear and that bondage. And that, I think, is an exciting thing. So it will be different. There are those of us who want to sit back and say, oh, you don't know what it was like in the 70s to be gay, and you know, the only way you had to go was the bar. And there's a certain romanticism about that. These young whippersnappers just don't know how good they've got it. Yeah, there's a part of us that says that, for those of us who've been around, right? But seeing people released from that fear, I think, is far more important work than anything else that we can do, because that means we're changing hearts. And that, after all, is what Jesus did. Jesus changed our hearts and freed us to be who we are. And Jesus will free those who are in bondage to that fear as well. And we get to be part of that work. And that's exciting. Amen.
Amen.